Rumination is considered to be pathological obsession with one's pain or problems. Or in other words, it's just a lot of negative self-talk. And we all have that tendency to ruminate, to hyper-focus on our pain and our problems. And a lot of that rumination is focused around the current situation, the negative situation that we find ourselves in. And the problem with that is that it's not necessarily the situation that is causing our unhappiness. Eckhart Tolle said that our unhappiness, the cause of our unhappiness, is never the situation we're in. It's the thoughts that we have about the situation we're in. So let's think about that for a second. Whenever we find ourselves in a difficult situation, a negative situation, or even a positive one, what we're going to do is we're going to try and make sense of whatever is happening. We always want to tell ourselves a story to make sense of the life that we're living. And the problem with that is that it's not always reality. And I've talked a lot about this, and I've talked a lot about the power that our self-talk has, the power that our personal narrative has. And it's no different here. But the difference is between some negative self-talk and rumination is the hyperfixation on the negativity and the repetitive nature of rumination. Moving back to Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, he gives 3 steps for people to be able to exit, to remove yourself from a pattern of rumination. The first one would be to accept the situation and to stop having negative thoughts about the situation. The second one would be to, if you can, change it. If you can change the situation, change it. And third, if you can't change it, leave. And I want you to notice that nowhere in there, because a lot of people, when they read this, they assume that means that you need to have positive thoughts. That's not the case. You don't have to have positive thoughts. It's ceasing to have negative thoughts and just accepting what is. And a lot of people also assume that if you're accepting what is, that means that you're not trying to make your situation better. And that's also not the case. We need to try and make the situation better, and if we can't, we can leave. In Buddhism, they differentiate between a first arrow and a second arrow. The first arrow would be the pain and suffering that just comes from life. We can't avoid negative situations. We can't avoid tragedies and other events in our lives. But what we can control is our reaction to them. And so we can avoid getting hit by that second arrow. And it's a lot easier said than done. I'm not going to be a person that stands up and says that I am perfect at this, and I'm not even going to say I'm good at it. But what I am trying to do is to realize that I'm getting hit by not only a second arrow, but like a third and fourth and fifth arrow when I ruminate. And I think that's the difference between negative self-talk, just, saying something negative about a situation and then sitting and ruminating on it. You're hitting yourself with so much unnecessary suffering. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, is the unnecessary suffering. And I want to give an example. So let's say something bad happens at work. Let's say as a marketer, I start a campaign and after a month it falls flat. I have no ROI to show. I have no return on that investment. I can internalize that and tell myself how terrible of a professional I am and how the company should have never hired me. And not only that, am I thinking about it all day, I also take it home with me and I sit and ruminate on how I was so dumb and how I lost all that money for the company. Or I could stop, feel that first arrow, understand some of the things that I could have done to avoid it, and then move on. We should always learn from that first arrow so that we don't have to get hit by a similar arrow in the future. But to sit and ruminate on it, it does nothing. It doesn't change the past. And so what we need to do is accept what is, learn from it, and then move on. Marcus Aurelius has a beautiful quote around this idea, and he says that you only have power over your mind, not external events. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. There are many teachings in many other spiritual traditions outside of just Buddhism and Stoicism. Like, you can turn to the Bible, and I think it's Proverbs 23:7, something like that. And it says that what a man thinks, so is he, or something like that. And what I'm trying to say is the power of your thoughts is absolutely incredible. Your personal narrative shapes your reality. It shapes the quality of your life. And when we ruminate on the negativity and on the pain that is in our lives, then we are suffering unnecessarily. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is to bring attention to the fact that we are often suffering unnecessarily. If you take a look at all of the wisdom traditions and the wisdom teachers that have lived, what they're going to tell you is that your thoughts have power. And that's backed up today by psychological studies that have proven that rumination is one of the leading indicators of whether or not someone's going to suffer from anxiety and depression. And so if we can take what some of the teachers have said about rumination and how to stop it by accepting what is, changing your situation, and if you can't change it, leave it. That can dramatically reduce the amount of rumination that we have. And I know overcoming negative self-talk is much easier said than done, and it's probably going to take an entire lifetime for most of us to be able to do that. And so maybe if we could take one thing away from this, it would be to stop ruminating, to catch ourselves in the negative self-talk and try to move towards acceptance, trying to move towards accepting what is, and then changing the situation if possible. And if not, if it's impossible to change it, leave it. Anyways, I hope this was interesting or helpful or thought-provoking, because it was for me. And if it was for you, I hope you stick around, and I'll catch you in the next video.